Meanwhile, how is everyone doing? Why don't you answer in the chat box? I can read your messages. And I think since it's a relationship workshop, let's ask everyone who all are in a relationship right now. Yes, no, in the chat box, and maybe, you know, because we all know there is that category where we don't quite know. Are we not? So let's see. Yes, for I am in a relationship. No, for I'm not. Not sure for, not sure. In the chat box. So let's talk. We're going to keep it very interactive. We're involved. Okay.
Situationship.
Situationship.
That's a good
That's
word to give it.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I think we can start now.
Okay.
Yeah. A very good evening to everyone here today, and welcome to our very own webinar brought to you by Humans at Safe Places in collaboration with Pour the Heart Out. Humans at Safe Places attempts to create a safe, empathetic, and non judgmental platform to talk about the most stigmatized issues of society through personal stories of people that are shared with us and therefore create awareness and promote inclusivity in society. This webinar is hosted in collaboration with Praneet Kaur, the founder of Pour the Heart Out, which is a mental health organization with a vision to build an honest platform that provides authentic mental health resources and facilitates difficult conversations. Conversations that are hard and uncomfortable, but absolutely necessary for our well being. Ms. Praneet, it is an honor to have you here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
In today's workshop, we will be talking about the impact of relationships on mental health, what makes relationship toxic, conflict resolution, and much more. We hope that every single one of you walks away from today's workshop with a better understanding of your relationships and is better equipped to deal with such problems efficiently. I'm Anushka Chakraborty, and I will be your host for this evening. Viewers can ask questions to Ms. Praneet through the Zoom chat. If you would like to ask your questions anonymously, please send them privately to the host of the Zoom meeting, and I will ask all queries on your behalf. If you've joined us from YouTube Live, you can send in your questions to the comment section. So this webinar will be divided into 3 segments: the what, the when, and the how. Viewers, please make sure to ask your questions segment-wise so we can ensure that we cover every topic that we have planned for today. So, Ms. Praneet, what segment would you like to start off with?
Anything that you'd like, anything that the audiences would like. I'm okay with everything.
Okay, so I think it will be best if we start off with the what.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you think is a toxic relationship? What does that term really mean?
Right. So, Anushka, there's enough said and done about toxic relationships. You'll go on Google, you'll find a whole checklist. Apparently, a lot of people tell me that if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in your partner, then it's a toxic relationship. Or if these things are missing, then it's not a healthy relationship. But the thing is that as I work with my clients, I see that you know when it comes to relationships, you can't make definitive statements. Things are so different, they're so dynamic. What can be rude for one couple can be just an intellectually stimulating conversation for another. What can be disrespect for one couple can be saucy, sexy for another couple. So each couple defines the dynamic of the relationship on their own, right? And each context is different. So whenever we're talking about relationships, we have to look everything in context. Otherwise, it can become very misleading. But now, how do we know if our relationship is a toxic one or not? So here's a marker, and that marker is our emotions. So instead of looking at, oh, why is my partner doing this? Or what's happening here? Or, they said that, what does that mean? Or they did this, what does this mean? Trying to speculate and calculate. Instead of doing that, looking within and seeing what emotions am I experiencing in this relationship. Am I more sad than happy? Am I more insecure than secure? Am I more jealous than comfortable with my partner? Am I more uncomfortable than passionate? Am I more suffocated, for most part, or do I feel free? Do I feel I can expand myself in this relationship? Or do I feel limited in this relationship? So, it's your emotions, and it's sitting with those emotions that'll be a window to whether or not your relationship is healthy. And here's the thing. It sounds very simple, but it's actually not simple, because we all know that we are in a toxic relationship, and we know that we're not feeling quite good, but we keep convincing ourselves that it'll get better. We keep holding on to that one string of hope, and we don't acknowledge and address the emotions that we have. We keep convincing ourselves otherwise, that let's say that you suspect that your partner is talking to perhaps another potential partner, and that that is the case, and that if you delve too much into it, you're going to get insecure and you would not want to be with your partner, so you tend to avoid looking at it. So this is, in our technical jargon, it's something called shrinking your consciousness in some areas, like दिमाग की बत्ती बंद करना, so that हमें ज़्यादा truths दिखाई ना दे, because too much truth in a relationship can be hazard, as they say, because if in case मुझे पता लग गया that my relationship is toxic, I'm gonna have to let go, you know. Having said that, I also want to establish that on realizing that my relationship is toxic, the only answer always is not that we have to let go. It is to establish A, who is bringing in the toxicity, because it's never the relationship or people who are toxic, it's always the dynamic, you know. So, for example, if I've been cheated upon in my past relationship and now I'm with a new partner who's fairly loyal and very honest, but I continue to feel insecure, and that's because of my past experiences. And because I'm feeling insecure, I'm consistently going to poke my partner. What are you doing? Who are you talking to? Show me your phone, And I'm going to always have that watchful eye on them, which can lead them into feeling very suffocated, or just very strangled in this relationship. Now, I'd like to replace the word toxicity with unhealthy, okay? Because then it's a lot less dramatic. So who's bringing the unhealthy patterns into the relationship? Then it's your insecurities that you have seen coming from your past relationship. So this can be worked out. You can work through your insecurities. You can communicate this to your partner, that I know I keep throwing it on you, but I just want to let you know that it's not your fault. It's my experiences in the past, and I'm trying to navigate through this, and I'd like your support for that. So, one, to know what a toxic relationship is to see what are your emotions, what are your partner's emotions. Let emotions be the window, and then know that these emotions can be managed. नहीं तो हमारा solution क्या होता है emotions के साथ? Run away. Do something that you just stop feeling that emotion entirely. So what do we do for that? We shrink our consciousness in that area. So the idea is to expand your consciousness, which is just to be aware, just to like lighten up the brain and really see things for how they are, and check with your emotions. And you'll know for yourself what is the toxic part of your relationship.
Mm-hmm. It's like, we know that if we dig too deep, we'll find things that we probably don't want to find. And so we just don't search.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. All right. So viewers, if you guys have any questions regarding anything, please feel free to ask them, right? You can send them in through the Zoom chat. If you want to ask them anonymously, you can send them to the host of the meeting. All right. So we know that in relationships nowadays, especially in today's day and age, there is a lot of tension between people. So why do you think, what is causing this tension in millennial relationships today?
Right. So, if we all sit with our parents or our grandparents, we'll see that relationships have evolved massively. We've come such a long way in how we relate to each other, how we connect in romantic relationships and otherwise, And I think it's that change, it's that transformation that's causing this tension. So many people are walking in with the relationship issues, and I'm always asked, how did you become a relationship counselor? So I was always a counseling psychologist, But so many cases of relationships started to come in that I got particularly interested in that area. And honestly, it's really just the exposure that the clients gave me that made me dig deeper into this area, because there is the problem is rampant, and it's primarily coming from the place that right now our society is undergoing a massive transformation. If you look at it, what is that transformation? Let's say that 50 years from today, right? If you go 50 years back, things are quite different. You know that you have to get married at a certain age, then have children, listen to your husband. Husband's job is to go out and earn and stuff. Woman's job is to, nurture everyone in the family. She's a caretaker, he's the breadwinner. Children are supposed to obey the elders, and everyone is supposed to obey the super elders in the family, the grandparents. So this was the formed structure, and no one would step out of this structure. It didn't matter if there was love in the marriage. If you got married, you got to stay together. Lado, jhagdo, kuch bhi karo, saath mein raho. Why? Because you have children. But this is not the case today. Movements like Me Too, feminism are changing lots of things in our society. We are questioning the gender roles that were assigned to us. Today, we're not complying to those gender roles. Today, we don't want to be women who are confined in four walls. Today, we don't want to be men who are only defined, or the man who only comes from being, strong, absolutely zero on EQ, and only going out making big bucks. Children today want to question, they reason out, they don't want to just simply confirm just because you are elder. Today, elder age is not equal to wisdom. Today we reason out, today we question, and today we want rationality. We don't want set patterns, we don't go by that anymore, right? So much is changing. Now, look at it this way, that there is a family, right? And very like kabhi khushi kabhi gum sort of a family. Okay, very stringent rules and everything is like super rigid. And that's how this family lived for generations. And now this new generation came in and they're like, no, everything's going to change now. We don't want to wear this. We don't want to eat that. We don't want to do this. Now, this is going to bring in freshness for sure, but it's also going to lead to a lot of imbalance and chaos. And that is how changes are. We know that. That in the beginning, they're very chaotic, they're very messy, right? And when messiness is there, when chaos is there, there is a lot of how we say communication gaps, generation gaps, we call it, misunderstandings. We don't understand each other. We don't know who is coming from where. What someone thinks is assertiveness, we think is rude. What someone thinks is being authentic, we think is being arrogant. So there's so much structural problem happening in every household, on the level of a single unit, and then on a greater level in the entire society. And that's not just for Eastern culture, it's everywhere. We're going through a massive change as a society. But how are we navigating through this change? What are we doing with this change? Are we ready for this change? It's almost like demonetization hua tha. What did everyone say? That yeah, great step, but the country wasn't ready for it. We weren't ready with the resources for that kind of change. Same thing. Feminism, Me Too, everything is changing. Such wonderful changes are coming along. We're questioning the gender roles. We don't want to abide by some stupid rules who are going to rule us anymore. Each individual is deciding how they want to live life, which is beautiful. But we don't have enough resource to navigate through this change. And that is why we're here today. We're here to build those resources today. What is that one of the biggest resource? Well, the biggest resource is communication. To talk. When we're living life a certain way and suddenly it changes, we need to talk about what's happening. What is that one thing, you guys, that happened the most because of this pandemic? There was a global level conversation happening on one single topic. Never before we saw this happening in the entire world, that the entire world was talking about just one thing, the global pandemic, right? And even though there was a massive shift we've never seen, we've never imagined, there was a very weird sense of connectedness, in this, while we were fighting this pandemic. The artist community is coming together doing their thing, the student community is coming together doing their thing, everyone's joining hands, so many NGOs are at work, massive global level of connection. And why was it happening? Did you all check your Instagram when the pandemic started? Every 5 minutes, a new page is doing a new live, right? I mean, as annoying as it got after a point, but we all know that it did help at some point. Consistently, we were looking at it's all right, you don't have to be productive, take it easy, we're all in this together. It sure gets annoying after a point, I agree to that. But there was definitely this sense that, we're all in this together, we're not alone, we're not the only one who's going crazy. And I'll tell you that as a counseling psychologist, and I'm sure all my colleagues would agree to this, that there was a massive change in how people started to approach mental health. Why? Because collectively we were talking about it. So everyone came out and started talking about it a lot more, you know. So coming back to the dynamic of millennial relationships and why things are changing. Now we know why are they changing. It's because we are transforming as a society, right? But that is bringing in something that we are all terribly scared of. Two things. One, a massive amount of uncertainty, right? Earlier, the gender roles were decided. You knew if you've taken birth what you have to do. You're a girl, you'll be a doctor. You're a boy, you have to be an engineer. You're a girl, you have to play this role. You're a boy, you have to play this role. You have to like pink, you have to like light blue. Everything is certain. But now everything is uncertain. You know, the choices are never ending. And now there is a paradox of choice. The more choice there is, the more confused we are, right? And now we can be anything in this world. But it's not a good news. It's anxiety provoking, right? Because we as humans do not like uncertainty. We want structure. We want answers. We want to know what's on the other side of the sea without diving into the sea, right? And the second thing that's coming in is a massive sense of loneliness. अब जब हम अपनी नैया खुद पार लगा रहे हैं, हम रूल्स के हिसाब से चलना नहीं चाहते, so this is actually going to be a pretty lonely journey. Even though we're all undergoing the same journey, कोई कहाँ है इस journey में, कोई कहाँ है, everyone is experiencing the same thing, but we're all quite lonely. I mean, look what happened earlier. Back in the times of boomers, our parents' generation, our grandparents' generation, there was such sense of community. Why? Because everyone was living the same way, right? So all the women are getting together doing their knitting things, all the men are getting together doing their whatever drinking things. Such stereotypical roles were set, but that led to a sense of community, right? And now we're getting very individualized, right? Because we've learned that we're learning to restructure everything. So we're quite on our own. This is leading to isolation, this is leading to aloofness. And that's why every second person is experiencing loneliness today. We're all lonely in a crowd. We are all lonely in a relationship. We are all lonely in a family, you know. And we all experience it, don't we? Right? Every day we wake up with this hollow sense of self. Most of my clients are coming in and complaining, I feel like I don't have someone to lean on. I'm there for so many people and no one's there for me. I feel so disconnected. I feel like, is there anyone out there who wants to ask or check up on me? How am I doing, etc. Right? But this massive level of loneliness is resulting because we're not communicating our changes. We're not talking to each other. We're not ready to be vulnerable. Now, what is happening? Now, when we're so lonely and we don't want to connect to our community, what are we doing? Where are we going with all our needs? अब needs तो हैं जो community से पूरी होती थी पहले. The need to belong, the need to have connection, the need to talk, the need to be heard, the need to be seen, the need to be validated, to be loved, to have that exchange of affection. Where are we going with those needs? We're going to just one person. And that one person is our partner. We have taken all the expectations, all the things that earlier an entire community used to provide, and we're taking that baggage and we're going out in the market to find a partner, to throw this entire baggage on them and tell them that you are my soulmate. You're the one. So you're going to have to be with me in all the capacities. You will be my best friend, you will be my confidant, you will be my role model, you will be my guide, you will be my parental figure sometimes, you will be my sibling like sometimes. I will fight with you, I will be hurt by you, I will be angry at you, I will love you, I will make love with you, I will do everything with you, you know. And once you walk into my life, I am never going to be lonely again. I'm never going to be sad again. Everything is going to be okay. I will be able to handle everything that's wrong in my life. Isn't that how we approach relationships? If only I find that one right person, फिर सब ठीक हो जाएगा. That's why we're constantly in that search. And now, to answer this question, to conclude it, this is what is happening, that we are going through a transformation which has led us to feel very lonely. We are carrying that baggage of loneliness, and instead of connecting with a greater community, we are going to one partner with massive amount of expectations, and we're telling them that you, my love, will have to be there for me at all times. Everyone can get away with saying आज मूड नहीं है, आज बात नहीं कर सकती, मेरी एग्जाम है, like our friends say, or I don't feel like it. But my partner, you can't say that. We go to our partner and we go like, you know, if you won't be there for me, then who would? If I won't be angry at you, then who would I be angry at? जिससे हम प्यार करते हैं उसी से तो हम झगड़ा करते हैं, right? All the cliched learned Bollywood uh, concepts of love. And that is what the problem is. So this is what is happening, Anushka, that we've come to a point where we have a big bag of expectations, from our partner, and there is no problem with expectations. I hate it when people say stop expecting. No, you can't. But we're expecting all of it from one person. And that is why when conflict happens in a relationship, which is normal, every relationship has conflict, we don't look at it as just conflict. We look at it as मेरी needs पूरी नहीं हो रही. I'm not important to my partner. I'm not being attended to. I am not working for them, or they are not working for me. And we look at that as the end of the relationship. And that is why there's so much tension in millennial relationships today.
And I guess all of those expectations, when all of those expectations come together, it puts a lot of undue pressure on the other person.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So because we don't have much time, we're gonna move on to the next segment, which is the when. Before that, I'd like to cover one question.
Mhm.
All right. So what you talked about emotions, and this is a question from a viewer. What you talked about emotions and how we feel about a partner, can that be applied to non-romantic relationships like family members, etc.?
Uh, Anushka, can you be a little louder?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. So, what you talked about emotions and how we feel about a partner, can that be applied to non romantic relationships like family members? It's a
Oh,
question
yes.
from a viewer. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. All your relationships. In fact, your relationships at work as well. You go to the work and you realize I'm not happy here. I'm not fueled with energy and passion and motivation to work. In fact, I'm constantly feeling other people are better than me. That is also a window to, there is some unhealthy pattern you're bringing to work, or perhaps your boss is. And similarly with your family, your emotions are the window. If you constantly feel um, pressurized, if you constantly feel the need to perform when your family members are around, you feel like I can't be myself, you can't be authentic, you have to curb yourself, and you have to bend certain natures of yourself, tame yourself a little bit to be around your partner, your family members, and that can be anyone. It means that there's something wrong there. And now know that emotions is a window to show that there's an unhealthy equation. This unhealthiness is not necessarily coming from the other person. This can be the other person who's perhaps controlling, very dominating, or this can be just you. A lot of times in family, children grow up with this pressure that I have to impress my parents. I want their approval. I want them to validate me. I want them to like me. So we carry that undue baggage and that kind of a burden ourselves. and we automatically then start to feel like we're in a spot when that particular parent is around that you want to, impress. So absolutely this applies everywhere, because wherever you go, whatever you do, emotions are the true essence of who you are, and how you're feeling in a particular situation. So the idea is to get in touch with your emotions and to be aware of what you're feeling and what you're going through.
When it comes to family, I'm pretty sure everyone can relate to this, no matter where they are or whether in a relationship or not.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, yes. Another question from the viewers that I'd like to cover. Is it true that instead of expecting something from someone else, you should change yourself?
Okay, very contextual question. No.
Mhm.
Um, this is not this or this situation. That should I expect or should I change myself? The answer is yes and no. You know, both of these things need to coexist. You cannot stop expecting. So here's something that I'd like to put out, and I want everyone to hear this carefully and let it sink in, because there's so much said around expectations. There is so much shame that's thrown around. Oh, you have had expectations, that's why you're heartbroken. Well, it's crazy. Of course you're going to have expectations. So here's what I want to submit to you, that love can be unconditional. You can love someone just for who they are, for no reason, for no wish to have something in return. That's love. But relationships are not unconditional. Relationships come with roles. Relationships come with expectations. If you've married someone or if you're dating someone, of course you would expect them to talk to you, to make time for you, to sit down and communicate with you. You know, of course you would have the expectation that they listen to you, they attend to you, they're hearing you out, they're seeing you, right? And that's not the case with love. We don't love people just because they're seeing me. We can simply love them for who they are. So it's very important to understand that love can be unconditional and without any expectations. Relationships cannot. Not This is not to say that there is transaction in relationships, but there are roles that we play, and all the roles come with expectations. Imagine not having expectations at work, an expectation from your boss to be paid, an expectation from your employee to perform, right? It's going to be a chaos. Everyone's going to walk in and walk out with their own choice, and it'll be like US elections, you know quite
Yeah.
chaotic, right? So here's what I tell you: navigate through what your expectations are. you know Fair, unfair, valid, not valid, your call. You see to it. Sit down with your thoughts, and this can't happen if you're not objective. So looking at it objectively, am I expecting too much from this person? Do I expect them to take care of my loneliness entirely, that if you've walked into my life, I should never feel lonely again? So constantly be on call, answer, whatever. So here you're not expecting something from your partner, you're expecting something from, it's like you want your partner to be parent like, you want your partner to be friend like, you want your partner to be a constant crutch like, that you can lean on. Because when you're expecting things from your partner, it's important to understand that they're your partner, yes, and then they're also an individual. you know so no, should I expect or should I work on myself? Both. Keep working on yourself if you feel that is what is required, if you feel that your expectations are too much, but that should come from you. When you sit down and you feel that, am I expecting too much? Can I fulfill what I'm expecting from my partner? And not if it is coming from your partner. Maybe your partner is someone who's dismissive, and every time you expect something, they go like, I can't handle your pressure. You are always expecting too much. I can't handle this. So you don't have to curb your expectations because someone else is saying it. You sit down with it and you be the best judge of what is happening with you. And if in that case you feel that you need to taper it down a little bit, then see where are your expectations coming from. What makes you expect so much from your partner? Then if you feel that you need to bring about a change, then do that. but this is not like a replacement or a compensation sort of a question.
Yeah. Okay, so next we move on to the next segment, the when. So, as we know, all relationships always have a rough patch at some point. So, when does this rough patch change into a toxic relationship?
Hmm. Right. The answer is simple. It's when you are in a rough patch, you have a fight, which is normal. Every couple fights. And please, guys, know that every couple fights. So, that perfect someone that we're looking for does not exist. Surprise, surprise. Right? They are going to be flawed. They are going to have many imperfections. So will you. You are going to have to navigate through your imperfections, your flaws, your fights. That is going to happen, and you're going to have to come together and navigate through that. An ideal relationship is not the one where there are no fights, it's the one where you fight effectively, where you fight smartly, dil se, you know, भागना नहीं है फाइट से, जम के बैठ के लड़ाई करो. Instead of pushing your issues under the carpet, put them in front of you, spread them in front of you like a sheet, you know. Open the doors of your living room, call your issues inside, have them sit in your living room and have a chat with them as a couple. The idea is that when it's both of us versus our issues, it's a rough patch. But when it becomes you versus me, then we know that it started to become toxic. Not us versus our issues, but you versus me. So now we're not on the same side fighting our issues. Now we're on different sides. Now we're fighting each other. We're not fighting our issues. We've taken everything too personally. This is one marker. The second marker is when we're fighting about the same thing over and over again. Rough patches are going to happen, fights are going to happen. When you navigate through that, and like I said, not brushing it under the carpet, addressing the issue that has come up, and addressing it in a way that it doesn't come up again. So for example, um, I expect my partner to talk to me more often, and I just go and lash out. You don't talk to me as often, you don't make as much time for me, and my partner lashes out on me that what do you think I am, not a robot, I have 10 things to do, etc. Right? And then both of you come together, you meet. This is on call that you fought, then you meet. So when you meet, you know पिघल जाते हैं सब लोग. You exchange some physical affection, and you're all lovey-dovey, and you're like, oh, I'm sorry, oh, I'm sorry. The situation, the problem is unaddressed. You never talked about it. You never addressed that I, as one partner, want more time, and you, on the other hand, as another partner, think that whatever time you're giving is sufficient. You don't think that my demand is fair. So we're still standing in the same place, and we're going to have the same fight over and over again. And each time we're going to have this fight, our relationship is going to get a little more weaker. So here's a tip for everyone. If you don't want your rough patch to change into an unhealthy relationship pattern, address the difficult problems. Have those difficult conversations that make you feel this weird pit in your stomach. Perhaps talking about that one ex, resolving the things, the insecurity that you experience. Telling your partner that you said that the other day and I felt really hurt, instead of acting cold and indifferent. Having that direct conversation. So if you're feeling jealous, instead of then in return making them feel jealous, telling them that I felt really jealous when you were doing that. Jealousy is a very common emotion in a relationship. It brings health. It makes your partner feel that I am valued enough. Of course, not the suffocating possessiveness. Sometimes we confuse that with jealousy. That's not it. you know so having direct communication, and making sure that we're not brushing anything under the carpet. As long as that is happening, your rough patch will be a rough patch and it'll get over. And then you'll have a new rough patch. So fight, but always fight on new things. Don't keep fighting on old things, because then that's unhealthy.
Right. That is true. All right. So the next question is from another viewer from YouTube. It's a little specific. So, how could you make your partner feel that they are not alone and to take away their loneliness if you're in a long distance relationship?
Two things. One, you can't take anyone's loneliness away. None of us are responsible for anyone else's loneliness or sense of connectedness. We all bring ourselves out, we show up, we put ourselves out there in a way that we seek connection. Now, when your partner seeks connection, then you give them whatever you're capable of giving them. But if they're not seeking it, you can't go to them. You can't give it to them. So if how they say कि कुआं प्यासे के पास नहीं आता, right? If you're thirsty and you're just going to sit, even if you're sitting right next to a flowing river and thinking that now my thirst is going to be quenched, nothing's going to happen. You're going to have to bow down. You're going to have to put your hands forward, and reach out for water yourself. What the river can ensure is just that, I'm clean and I am thanda or whatever. I mean, metaphorically
When you
speaking.
need me, I'm there.
Yeah, right. So when you're coming to me, when my partner is coming to me, then how can I be there for you? That is my role. Beyond that, I'm crossing that boundary. Beyond that, now this is what causes problems, where we forget that this is my individuality, this is theirs, and when it gets mixed, when we trespass those boundaries, is when relationships become codependent or enmeshed. You can't take care of their loneliness, because I'll tell you that when I work with couples, the one thing that comes up the most is that one partner is always trying to help the other partner, but the other partner doesn't want help. They don't want to receive help. They are in a constant pit of, I don't know, anything, self victimization, or perhaps coming from a place where they feel that they're not deserving of love only. So even if you'll keep throwing it their way, they won't be able to receive it very well, because they're struggling, because their core belief is, I don't deserve love. Where does that come from your childhood, when you're brought up in an environment where there was a lot of neglect. So as a child, you intuitively know that if adults spend time with something or someone, it's because they value that thing or that person. And if my parents didn't do it for me, parents being the ultimate figures of attachment in the formative years of our life, right? So when my parents were not there for me, maybe they were both working. Maybe they had financial issues at the time I was born and they really had to struggle. But as a child, I don't know that. As a child, what I know is that I'm dependent on these people. I have dependency needs, and when they're unmet, I feel that I'm probably not lovable, that probably there's something wrong with me. And then this child becomes a performer. They keep doing things to get the attention of the parent. They do that in multiple ways. They can be throwing tantrums, they can be acting out, become very stubborn and, just lash out in order to gauge their attention. This child can become the caretaker, that if I'll go and solve my parents' problems, then they'll look at me and then they'll, pay attention to me. So I become the parent of my parents. How we see chote chote bache, they cleaning the tears of the parents, and they're there for them, and they ask them, ki mama kya hua, papa kya hua, and we're like, oh, so cute. There's nothing cute about that. It's very unhealthy. A small child is supposed to be a child, they're not supposed to be caretakers, because then they're going to grow up and then they're going to continue to be the caretakers, and then they won't know how to take care of themselves. How they know love exists is by connecting to people in a way where they're always giving and they won't know how to receive, because there will be a core belief always active. And what is that core belief? That I don't deserve love. you know so these people would always feel very uncomfortable if love would come their way, or if they'll get a lot of compliments. They would die to get compliments, but when they'll get it, they'll be too awkward. They don't know what to do with it, right? Third way of gauging your parents' attention can be becoming the lost child. The self victimization bit that we talk about. So when these dependency needs are unmet as children, when these children grow up to be adults, their inner child is still wounded. It's still active, and they're still wanting the same things that they wanted from their parents, which is perhaps love, to be seen, to be heard. And now they are trying to fulfill those needs through their partner. So maybe that's something that's happening with you. to the viewer who asked this question. So know that it's you won't be able to heal your partner's inner child wounds if they have any. They're going to have to do that themselves, and you can be there for them while they're on this journey. So you can only be there for them in the capacity of a partner, not in a capacity of uh, a parent they never had.
Hmm. That does put things into a new perspective, probably a perspective that many of us didn't consider before. All right. So, the next thing, two of our viewers have asked a similar question. So, I'm going to read out both of them. So, the first is, what if you are willing to talk about an issue, but your partner is not? And the second is, what if the other person is not ready to talk or open up and continue being a closed book type of person?
Right. So here you have to take care of two things. How are you talking? When are you talking? Let's talk about the how first. A lot of times, people are closed off to have conversations of a particular kind only. They're not closed off all the time. And what are those particular conversations that they're closed off about? The conversations that make them feel attacked, that make them feel that this person is coming on to me very strongly. So, for example, that you know that you're someone who is not responsible, right? And your partner is always telling you that you're not responsible. You never plan our dates. I am the only one who's doing everything all the time. You don't take the initiative, etc. So you know this is something that you do, right? And the moment your partner comes to tell you the same thing for nth time, you're already in a very defensive state. You're already going to go like, yeah, I know. So acha, to what about that one time that I did it? you know what about what you do, right? So here's what happens. If I attack you right now, like if I punch you, like instinctively, what will you do if you see a punch coming towards you?
Well, first I'd move away, then probably punch back.
Right? So you'll either duck, or you defend yourself, or you punch back. You'll do any of these three things, and that's exactly what people do when we're having conversations as well. Whatever,
Hmm.
something between what you're saying and what they're taking, they are feeling attacked. Now, when they're feeling attacked, they're either going to stonewall you, they're going to create a wall between you. So now you're talking to them, वो सर खुजा रहे इधर देख रहे हैं phone देख रहे हैं, and it's so annoying, right? Then you get all the more angry, and then you attack them even more, and then they come in the field and they attack you back, and then this to and fro happens, and both of you come out of that conversation bruised, emotionally bruised, not wanting to go back to that space again. So focus on the how. If your words are attacking, your partner is either going to duck, which is build a wall between you and them, or they're going to attack you back, which is they're going to get nasty, you're going to get nasty, and it's just going to get really ugly. And thirdly, they're going to duck, attack, defend. They're going to act very defensive. I didn't do it. No, but what about that time? Oh, but what about what you do? And whatever you'll say, it'll appear like they're just not understanding because they're too defensive, you know. So here's what you need to do. You need to focus on how you're communicating, and are you attacking your partner? If you're attacking, they will never be ready. Never. So how do we check if we're attacking our partner? Simple, very simple way to check. If our sentences are beginning with you always do this, you never do this, you're never there for me. This always and never words are very triggering. Why? Why is that? It's because when I say the word you, always, or you never, it's like I'm talking about your character. I'm labeling who you are. You're so irresponsible, you know. You're so dishonest, you don't tell me what you're doing. Maybe they didn't tell you this one time, but you calling them dishonest is a attack on who they are, on their sense of self, on their personality. Now, when someone is defining you in a negative manner, what are you going to do? You're going to shut them off. You wouldn't want to talk to them, right? So you have to make sure that your sentences don't begin with you. You don't listen to me. You make me feel like this. You are this way. You are that way. No labeling and no sentences beginning with you. That's attack. Begin your sentences with I. Because don't we know that Underneath all of these arguments and all of this lashing out lies, an expectation that we have from this person. So when I say you're always on your phone, what am I expecting? I'm expecting you to look at me. I'm expecting your time, but I don't say that. I'm expecting us to go back to the way we were in those initial months of our relationship. But we don't say that. Deep down, what we're feeling is that I'm missing my partner. That we'll tell our friend when we'll call her or him. Listen, I'm really missing my partner. Things are really different. But when I go to my partner, the speech will change into, you're never there. You do this, you do that. Street fight, right? So bringing our vulnerable self to the conversation and starting our sentences with I. I feel rejected when you're constantly on your phone. I feel that you don't love me anymore when you're on your phone. I feel that you've forgotten me. I feel that you don't care about me. And then they say, no, no, I do. They tell them, no, no, I'm sure you do. I'm just telling you, this is how I feel. It may not be a fact, but this is how I feel. Can you help me resolve this? Can we work on this together? And then, so add your emotion, and then add the element of what you expect. Not that I expect you to not use your phone. I expect you to use your phone only for 2 hours. Don't control their behavior when you're telling them what you expect. Tell them, I expect us to go back to the way we were. I expect us to be a more fun couple. I expect you to be there for me, and I want to be there for you. I expect for us to grow together emotionally. I expect for us to be like that couple, that one couple that both of you admire. You know, so when you'll attack them, they will not listen. That's the how. Second is the when. When are you going to have this conversation? Have this conversation not when both of you or one of you is emotionally charged. Because then you can't help but attack them, or they will attack you. Do not try to be vulnerable while you're in the moment. So like you've fought with them and you've told them 10 things, and now they are attacking you, and now you'll suddenly remind yourself, oh, this is what Praneet said. And then you'll be like, no, I want this actually from you. They'll be like, bullshit. Shut up and get out of my room. Because you've already attacked them then, and they're already in that defensive state. They're not ready to listen. So you have to have the conversation when both of you are more open to that kind of vulnerable conversation. So choose a moment where you're nowhere close to that conflict that you want to address, where you're in a good space, where you're in a good time, and announce it. Tell your partner that, listen, I want to talk about something, that's because I really want to resolve it. And just a heads up, this is not to put you down. This is not to tell you that, you are wrong or something. I really love you. Give that reassurance in that moment. It's called unconditional love fight. Now, my love for you is intact. However, we're fighting about this. So while we're resolving this, I still love you. So, you can really say that, put that in words. I'm really annoyed by you doesn't mean I don't love you. Yeah, we can hug, but I'm still mad at you. Both of these things can coexist, which we don't understand. We think very polarized way, right? So the how and when, if you work that out of conflict resolution, you'd really be able to crack this.
Mm-hmm. Everything you're saying right now just makes so much sense. All right, so the next question we've received puts things into, a different perspective, the other perspective, you could say. So, what to do if you're on the receiving end of the attack? How should I handle the situation?
Same thing. First of all, become aware that this person is attacking me and I'm feeling attacked. Become aware before you react. If you react, you will end up attacking them, and then, like I said, it's going to become very nasty. First of all, become aware. This person is attacking me and I'm feeling very attacked right now. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave this conversation for now because I am emotionally charged. Like we discussed, no conversation when you're emotionally charged. And one very important thing, don't just barge out of the room. While they're shouting at you and they're talking to you, you are walking away very like calmly. That won't work. right? That's just going to make things really bad. It really angers people when that happens. Let them speak what they're speaking. Once they're done, tell them, whatever you said really hurt me. I don't think I should talk to you when I'm this hurt. I want to go cool off, and then we'll come back and have this conversation. And then know that it is your responsibility to return back to that conversation. Not return back to each other lovey dovey. No, no. Return back to that hard conversation and address it. So when you take, it's called taking time off, right? So when you take that time off, announce it, and then know that it is your responsibility to come back to it and address it. And don't think that now just because you're ready, they'll also be ready. Ask them, take permission. This is called emotional consent. We always talk about sexual consent. We don't talk about emotional consent. Take emotional consent. I want to talk about something heavy right now. Do you think you have the capacity to listen to this? No. Then you leave the ball in their court. I want you to come to me when you feel ready. And if they don't come to you, check with them. Ask them, do you think you're ready now? Can we talk now? I really don't want this to slide by. I want us to address this.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. All right, so now we'll have to move on to the next segment, the how. And for this segment, I'd like to start it off with a question actually from our viewers. So someone has asked how to know which connection to leave behind and which to hold on to.
Wonderful question. Right.
Same. I think so too.
Again, there is no cookie cutter response to this question, right? I won't give you a list of 10 things you find in a person, leave them. We love reading these articles, don't we, right? ऐसे एक prescription से मिल जाए कि इस इंसान को छोड़ना है, इसको नहीं छोड़ना है, right? But it doesn't work like that in the real world. In the real world, there's a lot of uncertainty. There is no structure. There are no definite answers. It's hit and trial. You're going to have to step into it to find out what's inside, right? So having said that, to know which connections to keep, which not to keep, you first need to get in touch with which connections are working for me and which are not. Like I said in the beginning phase of it, Anushka very well concluded that answer, that because knowing certain things is so hard, that we don't want to know it. So we don't dig deeper only, right? So when we do that, when we don't dig deeper, we keep lying to ourselves that this relationship is working for me. So, for example, you are in a relationship where the person is emotionally great, you're very compatible, your interests match, you're attracted to them, but you want commitment and they are not committing to you. What they're doing instead is that they are just giving you some signs that, it would be so great if I have a partner like you in the future. Leaving you nowhere, neither here nor there, telling you that I'd like to have a partner like you, but also not straight away committing to you, or saying that, I love spending time with you. When I'm with you, things are just so different, and yet not committing to you. So, how you start to betray yourself there is that you start telling yourself, it'll get better. It's moving towards commitment, it'll be there. No one moves towards commitment. When you're ready, you're ready. It's not a process. You give commitment, you don't build commitment. Building is convincing. Either they are convincing themselves, or you're convincing them yourself, or you're convincing them to commit to you, right? So here you're lying to yourself and you're telling yourself that it'll get better or whatever. However, the truth is that you want commitment and the person that you're with is not giving you it. That's the truth. That's the fact. So the moment you say that out loud to yourself, you know that, ouch, okay, this is not going to go anywhere because I want to go left and they want to go right. And I'm pretty sure I don't want to go right. So am I going to sit here lying to myself that we're both on left? Or I'm going to tell myself that, yeah, maybe I'm okay with right. People say, maybe I don't want commitment. We start lying to ourselves legit. So this is what is going to determine which connections to keep and which not to keep, which ones you should let go. You will first have to be authentic. When you will practice authenticity, whoever will be able to handle your authenticity will automatically stay. Whoever will not be able to, they will go away on their own. You don't need to let go of people. But why is it that toxic people continue to stay? It's because we are not authentic to ourselves. We keep lying to ourselves and we keep making room for them. We know that this person has cheated on me twice, but we're going to give them another chance. तो कौन अपने पैर पे कुल्हाड़ी मार रहा है ना? क्योंकि हमें बहुत लोनली फील होता है, क्योंकि हमें लगता है हमें फिर से कोई नहीं मिलेगा. क्यों? क्योंकि फ्यूचर फिर से अनसर्टन हो जाएगा, फिर से शुरू करना पड़ेगा. यार इतनी इन्वेस्टमेंट की है 5 साल. You know, we don't want to do that. We don't want to start all over. So we keep on holding on to this one person who is very evidently not healthy for me. I'll tell you, whoever asked this question, I'll tell you deep down, you know which connections to keep and which to let go, right? You just need to start listening to your gut. And it may sound very simple, but it's actually, I know it's easier said than done, right? But it's small baby steps towards authenticity each day. What is authenticity? Authenticity is when you're sitting in the group and everyone is like, oh, I love Marvel movies, I love Marvel movies, and they're discussing it, and you don't like it. You don't know shit about it. But you're like, it's nice, you know. What are you doing? You're not being authentic. Talking about a simpler example, but we know there are all kinds of level to it. You're lying to yourself and to them. Why? Because you want to fit in. I'll tell you, wherever you're trying to fit in, you will never belong there. The opposite of belongingness is fitting in. When you fit in, you let go of who you are so that you can be with them. You try to copy them. You try to be just like them. You try to conform. However, in order to belong, you need to bring your true self to the table, no matter how different it is. You don't need to be someone's replica in order to fit with them. So when you bring your honest self to the table, when you say, I don't like Marvel movies, and 4 people leave the table, you know that it's not going to work for you. Because for them, it's important that their friends watch Marvel movies. They're not accepting you for who you are. But this one friend stays. So then you know that they are there for you, for who you are. A simple example, but like really apply it everywhere. You bring your authentic self to the table and you'll see, you'll know who is accepting you for who you are. And that's what you want, right? Unconditional love and acceptance. And then you can build on those relationships and invest in them. Wherever you feel that this person is not accepting you for who you are, they don't deserve your time.
Mm-hmm. Maybe at some point we just, convince ourselves that whatever they're doing is in fact what we want them to do, even if it's not. And maybe on the
Exactly.
other side of it, um, we think that that's what we deserve. Going back to your parenting question. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. Okay, so the next question is, what about the concept of taking a break? Another question from a viewer.
The whole Ross and Rachel confusion. We can't
Right.
put an end to that argument, right? We don't know who was right, Ross or Rachel. We don't know whether it was a break or a breakup. Well, I don't think that there is, again, a definitive answer to that. It's for the couple to decide, what are we doing? How are we taking a break? So, if by this question, the person who asked this means taking a break, like not a breakup, but taking time off from each other. Again, I'll go back to repeating what I said. When you're taking time off, it's your responsibility to announce it and be very clear what it means to take a break. Be very clear. I think Ross and Rachel didn't clear it out. Ross thought it's about going out and eating a yogurt. Rachel said no break from us. Maybe she just wanted a weekend by herself, going on a solo single person trip. And then want to come back and, hang with Ross again. But what Ross thought was, oh, it's over. She doesn't want to be with me anymore. Because in that moment, Ross was insecure, right? For those who don't know what I'm talking about, it's from a TV show, Friends. So, let's look at it this way, that if um, one person has one definition of taking a break and they're freaking out right now, what, we're taking a break, and for the other person it's simply we're just going to um, some take some cool off time, and come back to each other. I need to clear my head. So clarify it ask yourself, what do you really mean by it? Do you even know what you're wanting right now? If you do, communicate it to your partner. And then if you are someone who's asking for the break, then you are responsible for coming back and talking about it. Discuss, are we still committed to each other, or are we seeing other people in the meantime? And then ask yourself, why do I want this break in the first place? Is it because I really want to clear my head, or because I'm very done with our fights? Well, if you're done with your fights, then taking a break may help you rejuvenate, but your fights will still remain there. So if you're taking this break to refresh yourself and, just to like press F5, if that's your purpose, that makes sense. But if you think taking this break, how we say distance makes hearts grow fonder, rubbish. It may or it may not, you know. It's communication that makes your heart grow fonder. You know, talking to each other, being vulnerable to each other, telling each other how we feel by expressing. So know that even if you take this break after doing it right, communicating it to your partner, etc., know that to resolve the reason why you fought and felt the need to that break has still to be worked upon. It still needs to be worked upon. And you're going to have to sit your partner down or tell them, when do you wish to do it? How do you wish to do it? And again, then going back to the how and the when of conflict resolution. When are we going to do it? And how am I going to do it?
Right. The next question is a little heavy. Another viewer. Being 100% vulnerable or honest risks exploitation. When do you know it's worth taking the risk? Or how do you know it's worth taking the risk?
That's a wonderful question. You see, on the other side of vulnerability definitely lies hurt and exploitation. But on the same side, that is on the other side of the vulnerability, also lies connection. And you'll find it nowhere else. That's the only place where connection lies. It's when you open your heart to someone completely, and when they do the same, is when you truly connect to them. Everything else is just superficial and platonic. So, how do we dive into that sea without knowing what's inside of it? Seafood or sharks. So, for that, here comes the new concept that we're going to have to pair up with vulnerability, and that is boundaries. Vulnerability minus boundaries, not vulnerability. Disclosing yourself to everyone, telling everyone about, your childhood, your abuse, and whatever you've been through is not vulnerability. Vulnerability is not marked by the amount of disclosure. It's marked by the amount of courage you need to show to talk about something. So if you have a partner and you really fear, if I tell them this, they might just reject me, or you have lots of shame in telling them something, but you show courage and do that, that's vulnerability. Telling them all about your life and your childhood and all your dogs and everything is not vulnerability. Right? So now, how to ensure that you're not being exploited or you're being vulnerable? That is to know your boundaries. And to know your boundaries, you've got to be authentic to yourself, like we discussed. To know who deserves my vulnerability. To know who deserves to know about the struggles of my life. And then very consciously choose that, who do I want to show this side of myself to? The moment you see a red flag, stepping away. How do you do this? Again, trial and error. Start with sharing something small, which is vulnerable but not as vulnerable. See how that's received. Communicate with this person in general and see if they're accepting you for who you are and you feel safe with them emotionally. Then you pick up, dig deeper and pick up the things that are slightly harder for you, and build that up. That's how relationships work. ऐसे नहीं कि पहले दिन ही हम लोगों ने एक दूसरे को राइट स्वाइप किया और फिर हमारी सुबह 6 बजे तक बात होती है, हमने एक दूसरे को सब बता दिया, अब हमें बहुत प्यार हो गया है. Right? Not that. It's gradual, it's eventual, and it's built on brick by brick. Right? So here's how you do it. If you're going to speed it up, you will not know what boundaries to build with what person. Take your time, go slow, and be mindful what are you doing while you're going slow. So if your boundaries are intact, if If you're authentic to yourself, where you're not lying to yourself, you're honest to yourself that this person doesn't seem right for me, and you're not keeping them just because you don't want to be lonely. You're keeping them because you're genuinely someone you'd like to be with. you know so when you're authentic to yourself, you know your boundaries. When you know your boundaries, you're vulnerable with the right kind of people. That being said, you can never guarantee how a relationship is going to turn out. So it's also important to understand that when we're talking about love, that's what vulnerability is, right? It's full of risk. If on the other side is certainty, then it's not vulnerability. Then you don't need courage, because you know it's for sure going to work out. Vulnerability is taking that leap of faith and not knowing what's on the surface where you're going to land. So you're going to have to take that chance. You're going to have to see how that pans out for you. You cannot know for sure. You can't be certain. A lot of my webinars, I'm asked, "Ma'am, how do I be certain if this person is the one?" And I tell them, you can't be certain. No one comes with the tag, "I am the one for Praneet." No one comes with that tag. You're going to have to dig into it. What you know in the beginning is, I'm attracted to this person. I like spending time with this person. I like how we can communicate to each other, and that's all I know. After that, I'm going to have to invest, dig deeper, talk more, be honest, expect honesty, and then see how that goes. And then decide if I want to continue to be vulnerable to this person.
Mm-hmm. I feel like vulnerability is very often seen as something bad, as something weak, or
Mm-hmm.
being vulnerable or not being vulnerable is seen as something that makes you strong when you don't share a part of yourself or your stories. There's that mysteriousness that's seen as a good thing on the part of the person who doesn't want to be vulnerable. But of course, it's a
Yeah.
very flawed sort of opinion, but it does
Mhm.
exist.
You're very rightly putting that out, Nushka. Like, what are we doing right now? We're all being extremely vulnerable. While I'm talking, you are allowing yourself to get in touch with that pain inside of you that perhaps you've experienced in your relationship or are experiencing right now. That's vulnerability. When you're coming up here, you're showing up and you're asking questions, such sensitive questions about your life. That's vulnerability. If you send this link to someone that, come watch it with me, if they're your partner, you're being vulnerable together. और इस वर्कशॉप में कभी आपके फेवर में बात हो रही होगी, कभी उनके फेवर में बात हो रही होगी, but you're willing to sit through this together. When you work at your workplace, you risk failure and you take a bigger step at work, and that's when you hit the next level of success. That's vulnerability. Who has ever achieved anything good in life without vulnerability? You can't go anywhere without it. If you're not being vulnerable, you're caged, and you're only surviving, you're not living. To live, to thrive, you got to be vulnerable.
Hmm. And for us and the viewers here, just attending this call and attending this webinar and talking about whatever kind of toxic relationship you're in is the first step towards attaining that vulnerability and getting to where you want to be.
Absolutely.
Right. So the next question is how to deal with how to deal with abusive, toxic, or narcissistic parents. And there is
Hmm.
one more question which addresses the same issue. So, yes, my parent is a narcissist, emotionally and physically abusive since childhood. I finally emotionally detached myself from her. Sometimes I feel vulnerable. How to deal with emotions when I miss the bond, knowing it's getting worse in each passing day?
Right. When you're brought up by abusive parents, there are massive amount of wounds that your inner child experiences. The effect of is so lasting that how you then relate to your partners as an adult, how you form relationships as an adult, all of it is tainted by how you were brought up by an abusive parent. It leads to a lot of self doubt. It leads to a very low self esteem, and you are not able to have a good decision making ability. The worst impact of it is that you end up choosing similar kind of people in your life, in friends or in partners. You choose people who are not if exactly narcissistic, they're quite patronizing, very condescending. You always keep feeling very burdened, very um, like on edge with them, and you constantly feel like you have to walk on eggshells around these person. you know and you're very likely to choose these people in your life if you've been brought up by such parents. Why? Because you're familiar with this behavior. Your nervous system knows how this behavior feels in your body and your bones. So brain works on the principle of conservation of energy, which means that whatever is already learned, whatever neural pathways are already built, it likes to go back and walk on the same neural pathways every time. So, because when you were a child, such formative years of your life, and if love was you, for you, was this abuse, being violated, being spoken to in a very patronizing tone, then that is what has become familiar to you. It was unpleasant, but it's familiar. So you're very oddly comfortable with this kind of behavior, even though you may be extremely sad. And that's why you keep signing up for such people in your life. This also answers the very popular question that I'm asked: why do I keep choosing same kind of people? Because familiarity is the principle on which our brain works. So what you need to do as a preventive measure that you don't bring more wounds your way is that you cut ties with that familiarity. You recognize that familiar pattern. How do you do that? Just simply sit and see what are the patterns that your parents had and how you ended up having similar kind of friends or boss or partner, and recognize the similarity. And before you sign up for a new relationship, romantic or otherwise, be aware. Do I see any of those things in this person? If you see it even one bit, take your time, go slow. See if you want to invest in this relationship, right? And now to talk about the trauma that you have been through. Well, it's a massive loss that you've experienced, a loss of your innocence, a loss of your childhood, a loss of your simple joy that children experience, that carefreeness. And that loss has to be grieved whenever you come to terms with it. So here's what you need to do: you need to be kind to yourself when you sit down with these thoughts. And you need to allow yourself to go through the emotional turmoil that you will go through regardless. Get into therapy if you feel that going through it alone is hard. Go to a therapist who practices trauma informed therapy, right? Get in touch with how this trauma is shaping your choices and your life today, and about the love that you want from them and all the unmet needs. Know that someone who is abusive in nature is dealing with their own unmet needs, and that is why they're acting the way they are. Now, someone who has their own needs unmet, they won't be able to be there for you in the capacity you want them to. So you're going to have to choose a new set of support system. And you're going to have to be very careful that you don't end up choosing same kind of people. It's not very hard to do, but it definitely requires effort and work. What kind of work and effort? Simply practicing consciousness, not shrinking your consciousness in that area, being aware every time that you approach a new person. Instead of just following that rush that you get when you meet someone, taking it slow, seeing how it works for you, deliberately setting the pace of the relationship, you know. So how do you deal with trauma? You just sit with those emotions. There is no how to emotions. How to do emotions. There's no structure to it. Emotions are so messy. So there's one thing that I tell all my clients: you can't heal what you can't feel. So if you want to heal from this trauma, sit with it, feel it first. Allow it to give you shivers down the spine. Talk to someone who you feel is your confidant, someone that you can lean on. Choose this person very wisely because their words are going to impact you. If you feel you don't have someone, go for professional help. Uh, Read material, read things that helps you heal. I'll give you some recommendations, in fact. So the keywords that you want to look for is inner child healing. When you're coming from an abusive childhood, um, you'll find John Bradshaw. He's someone who's worked tremendously in this area. He has written a wonderful book that's called Homecoming, which is to come back to your home, like your inner home, to reclaim your inner child, and to heal the wounds that it had gone through. So he's done some wonderful work. There's, of course, the holistic psychologist on Instagram, Dr. Nicole. There is Nathaniel Brandon. He's worked a lot on self esteem. So, yeah, go through these resources, watch these people, start your journey of healing. And of course, there's Pour the Heart Out, my Instagram handle, and my YouTube channel, and there are videos and work put out there as well. So, equip yourself and surround yourself with all the resources, all the kinds of people that will help you on your healing journey. There's a lot of work that's going to have to be put into this, and you should be willing to work through it.
Mhm. I completely agree with what you had to say about, we need to let ourselves feel the emotions that we need to feel. And a lot of times I've noticed in people around me that when there is an emotion that they don't want to feel, they can just block it out. If someone's
Because
feeling
we think,
sad,
yeah, we do block it out because we feel that's my dog barking. She gets really excited at this time of the hour. So, I'm hoping that you can still hear me. So I'm just going to go on. Um, so, what happens is that we think that if we're going to feel the emotion, we're going to become a wreck and then we won't be able to feel better anytime soon. Kuch handle hi nahi hoga, we'll become dysfunctional. But it's actually quite the opposite. The more you put off your emotions, the more you prolong the process of managing them. And the more you sit with them, the nature of emotions is such, the more you feel it, the more you start to dissolve them. They get dissolved, they don't hurt you as much.
right? And then seeing that, whenever someone's feeling sad or feeling down, they just switch. They just realize that they just have to be happy because everyone's seen them be happy around all the time. They just completely ignore it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just how we work, I guess. So another question that I see, how do we define intimacy and how to differentiate between platonic and non-platonic relationships?
Hmm. Okay. Intimacy, I'm sensing emotional intimacy here. Emotional intimacy is when you feel that you can be your authentic self to a person and you are not asked or told to curb yourself in any way while you're doing that. Sometimes you will be told that very directly. Sometimes you will be told that very indirectly. Indirectly, how? You will be told that, don't you think that your dress is a little too weird? Or, oh, you look like a bling today, or wow, you're really emotional. Or how many times do you cry in a day? So all of these condescending remarks is is how someone is trying to tame you. Someone is trying to uh, control who you are and certain aspects of yourself, right? Emotional intimacy is where you feel three things with a person. You feel seen, you feel heard, and you feel that you can authentically express yourself. When you have that with someone, that's emotional intimacy. And these are the very three markers where you can differentiate whether it's healthy or not, right? That if you're not being seen, you're not being heard, you're taken lightly. And what does it mean to be seen and heard? Not just that the person is looking at you while you're talking or they're listening to you, they're hearing you. To really listen to someone is means that you're so Dr. Nicole on Instagram is I see that conversation going on in the chat box. She's the holistic psychologist on Instagram. So you know um we start to feel that, oh, I did listen to you. But to listen to someone is to mean that when I said this particular word and this person got triggered, I've kept a mark here, I've kept a note here that this triggers you, so I'm never going to bring it up again. That's like really listening to the person. you're you've gotten together for the first time to get physically intimate, and you've told your partner, I don't want to go beyond this. But when you're with them, they take advantage of that moment and they push you a little bit more. So they're not hearing you. They're not listening to what you're trying to say. They just very casually choose, very conveniently choose to look past it. And then later on tell you, oh, I just thought you were shy. I just thought you needed a nudge. I thought you were enjoying it. You didn't say no, right? But you got to listen to their body language. You got to read it. You got to see if they're into it as much as you are, right? So someone with who you feel seen and heard, and that I can authentically express myself. I don't have to tame myself with this person. That's intimacy.
Mm-hmm. All right. So now, because we're pretty short on time, I'm gonna come to the questions that answer that are about conflict resolution. So now that we're around the end of the session, let's talk about, we've talked about problems and why they occur and how to deal with them, and now um, how to stop problems from occurring, or if God forbid something does happen, how do we deal with that? So
Okay.
how do we resolve a conflict, or how do we stop a relationship from breaking apart if we should at all?
Hmm. So we've already almost discussed some bits of it. So let's, take them with us on our tips. So there's, how are we communicating with our partner? Am I expressing? Am I attacking? When am I communicating with my partner? Am I choosing the right moment to do that? Third, when I am attacked, how triggered do I feel? And if I feel triggered, do I choose to attack them back? Do I choose to just take time off, communicate that I'm taking time off, and then take responsibility of coming back and addressing it? And fourth, most importantly, is, am I authentic to myself? You know, am I honest to myself? Because when I'm that, I know exactly what to say to this other person. Now, when I know exactly what to say to this other person, how they take it is none of my responsibility. It's not my responsibility. Their response is not my job. The only thing that I'm responsible for is how I communicate. Of course, I have to take the feedback. If I communicated, but something between what I said and what they took, there was a misunderstanding, then I'm going to have to go back and check with myself. Did I do it right? You know, so that is taking accountability. But it's not to blame ourselves, it's like a feedback. That's why I use the word feedback instead of blaming ourselves, you know. So, yeah, these are some of the things of conflict resolution about how to prevent a breakup. Um, I think there are two, three things that when they happen, after that, um, mostly couples start to go towards breakup. One is when one or both the people in a relationship become indifferent towards each other. You're saying, and I'm not caring anymore. It has stopped bothering me anymore. Like, I'm on another tangent. While you're talking to me, there's a wall between you and me. So when we start to act indifferent, we start to experience massive disconnection. And then, you start to go towards that thought of breakup. Second is when there is hostility in the relationship, physical, emotional, both. When we start to attack each other so much that we become so nasty that in the presence of the other person, I start to feel horrible about myself because they've said such, bad things about me to me. They've attacked me and they've used my vulnerabilities against me. Now I feel so unsafe talking to them. So I'm just going to withdraw. Third is abuse of any sort. And I'm not talking about the very evident sexual and physical violence abuse here. I'm also talking about micro abuse, you know, manipulating your partner, being condescending to them, controlling behavior, trying to dominate them, putting them down in a way, gaslighting them, putting them down in a way where then you can control them. Yes, emotional abuse, right? When things start to come to this point, the essence of the relationship is gone. So people don't stay together. Sometimes they're together just for the label, because again, fear of being lonely, but they're not really together. You know what I mean? How you can be with someone and still be really lonely and still feel like you're the only person in the relationship. You're the only one who's taking it forward, right? So, yeah, in order to do conflict resolution, it's very important to know where you need to resolve conflict and where conflict resolution means to walk away. So, we need to normalize having conflicts in the relationship, and we need to normalize sitting down and resolving them. But we also need to normalize walking away. And that's going to be our take. We are going to have to hit and try and then see if this relationship has potential to heal, or the right thing for me to do is to, you know, call it quits because it's just not gonna work.
Mm-hmm. Of course, sometimes conflict resolution means less of resolving conflict and more of walking away. That's definitely something that I do agree with. But now the time is up. We need to come to the end of this webinar. So, to our audience, thank you so much for taking the time out and being here with us today. And please fill up the form that is sent on the Zoom chat in order to receive your certificates, and make sure the details you provide is the same as the details you have registered with. All right. So, we would also like to express our sincere gratitude to our media partners who have played a huge role in making this event happen today. A big thank you to Girl of India, Now and Me, Storia, and Your Wonderful Project for their endless support and cooperation. Girl Up is a UN initiative aiming to unite girls to change the world. Now and Me is a platform that provides peer to peer support, enabling people to talk about their problems anonymously. And Storia is an organization of young storytellers which aims to be the voice of every story that deserves to be heard. And Your Wonderful Project is an initiative that works for mental health awareness and accessibility and provides peer support. And of course, a big thank you to Pour the Heart Out and Ms. Praneet Kaur for being here with us today and providing us with your valuable insight. I would also like to thank the team because of whom this event is possible today. Manya Girdhar, Akshat Anchan, and Saloni Ingle. And of course, the founder of Humans in Safe Places, Shaurya Mittal. And with that, we've come to the end of today's webinar. If you like this event, please be sure to check out HoSP and Pour the Heart Out, and as well as our media partners, the links to which will be sent on the Zoom chat. And don't forget to keep in touch with us for new and exciting webinars, workshops, and much more. And we hope to see you soon. And thank you so much once again, Praneet Kaur, for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I think this was one of the most well organized, very well structured webinars that I've facilitated. I thoroughly enjoyed it myself, and thank you for everyone for being here and being so interactive. I hope everyone has something to take back.
I'm pretty sure they do, as have I actually, just as a moderator.
That's wonderful.
So, yeah, thank you so much for everything today. And I really feel like it was a great session. And
Thank
just
you.
through the questions, I feel like we really connected with our audience.
I'm glad. Thank you so much. All
Thank you,
right.
guys.
Good luck to everyone. Bye bye.
Bye bye. We hope to see you next time as well.
Absolutely.